Hello everyone, my name is Troy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm finally going to be doing some more book recommendations, and those are going to be 7 books that you need to be reading. So first, let's do a little bit of a checkup in the comments. Just let me know how you're doing. I will respond to them. Just want to make sure you all are doing well. I'm hoping that you guys are having a pretty good week. For me, I think it's actually been not a too bad week. I mean, I've been a little bit stressed, but I actually did just do like a 20 to 30 minute cleaning session, and I'll insert some footage of that. So yeah, I've basically been having a pretty good day, especially because we're doing like a little bit of a small break day with our school. But anyways, besides that, today we are going to be going over some book recommendations, which I'm so excited for because I used to do these videos a lot and you guys used to love them. Like, they used to be some of my most popular videos. Like, I did fantasy recommendations, I did quarantine recommendations, I did sci-fi recommendations. Well, actually no, it was dystopian recommendations. But yeah, finally we're gonna get some more book recommendations today, and I'm aiming to do some books that I haven't really talked about that much recently. Like, I have like one that I read in the last month, but I'm trying to do some books that I read across the whole year and just like across different kind of genres. So yeah, I'm just gonna give you some book recommendations. Make sure you have a list. Like, I know a lot of you guys like to have like a notepad or open or something when you're watching my videos, because it's always good to have some books that you guys can be reading. Without further ado, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and let's just jump straight into the video. Alrighty guys, the first book that we're going to talk about today is To Best the Boys by Mary Weber. Also, if you're wondering why I changed spots, I'm trying something new out with my content for when I get monetized, so I'll announce everything that I have planned once I get monetized. So yeah, definitely keep watching my videos, like my old videos and stuff, to help me get those watch hours. But let's talk about To Best the Boys by Mary Weber. So this book is basically about this girl named Ren. She's living in this village that's just starting to get into the realm of science and study, and there's this one big college that Ren is aspiring to go to because she's interested in science as her dad is, and the main reason why she's interested in science is because her mother is actually dying of this plague, and she's trying to find a cure for her mother. And basically what ends up happening is this college is only for guys, and there's this competition every single year for all of the guys to participate in, where they can, you know, win a chance at the scholarship. It's like this big hedge maze, and then like using like your brain and like your math skills and your science skills all to like defeat this competition that lasts like a day. And what ends up happening is she just ends up like, you know, totally Mulaning it basically, and just going in there dressed as a guy. But she also got hints beforehand to go in from like the actual creator of the game, so like she is just basically having this disguise on for the other guys in the maze, because if they find out that she's a guy, then they're going to, like, you know, try to get her kicked out of it. And so basically what ends up happening is she goes to this competition, and that's mainly the big part of the book, is like she has to outsmart the other guys, and she has to figure out the clues, and she has to be the first one there to, you know, do the last task and be declared the champion of this maze. And then she gets to go to the college. And so we see like her, I guess, just her journey through this, like through gender roles, which is a really important subject. And then also like certain relationships in this book are great. The characters I thought were great. Like the main character was totally kick butt, and you know, just I love strong female characters. Honestly, like my favorite characters are the strong female characters. And also I thought what was fun was the setting in general. There was a bit of a fantasy element to it, but not a lot. Like I was kind of confused by it, even like there was a lot of like little things that kind of like were like making me go like that's a little bit of a fantasy bit, but then it was just mostly like science. Like I like how they combine science and fantasy. Just I think this is a great book if you are interested in like this cool competition and then like a kind of like a Mulan-ish story. So just has a lot of good vibes in there, and you should totally check it out. All right, the next book that I have for you guys is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a fantastic book if you're looking for a slightly spooky book for October. Well, it's actually pretty spooky. It was like a little bit even more spookier than probably The Witches. So I don't know, because it had a lot of like spooky like scenes with like the first murder that happened in the first timeline, and then the second murder that happened in the second timeline. Yeah, this is definitely a little bit spooky. It's not like scary, it's just a little bit spooky. So yeah, anyways, Truly Devious is a murder mystery written by Maureen Johnson that I absolutely adored, and this is actually a series. There's 3 books in the series, but I have yet to read them. So this is just my recommendation of the first book, Truly Devious. And I first heard about this from Emma Books, and I was like, yes, this is great, because I'm looking for more of like a murder mystery vibes, because I really do like them. I read a murder mystery last month as well. I always tend to like them because they're like spooky, they're scary, and you're trying to find out like what happened, and you can make guesses, and sometimes you're right. So it's perfect. This book takes place with like, okay, so there's 2 timelines. The first timeline is in like 19 something, and it happens at Ellingham Academy, and the like billionaire like developer of the school, his daughter his wife and daughter were kidnapped and killed, and the only thing that was left like with the crime was like this mocking riddle that was like listing different methods of murder for those like people. So I'll just read the riddle to you. It's like, look, a riddle, time for fun. Should we use a rope or gun? Knives are sharp and gleam so pretty. Poison slow, which is a pity. And then it just lists a bunch of like things like poison, knife, hanging, like all that fun stuff. Well, not fun stuff, but like, you know, riddly, murdery stuff. And then that case is like this, you know, really large case that happens later in the book. But then we kind of take place with Stevie Bell, who is, it's kind of like more of modern day, like 2010 vibes, you know, and she is going to her first year at the academy. She got picked for the academy for her interest in true crime, and so she's actually goes there to start solving the mystery. But then a second murder happens at the school, and basically another case is happening, and she has to kind of solve it. Like, she has to, you know, pull together her wits and her cleverness, and she has to solve the case. And it's basically just a whole story of mystery, murder, riddles, like clues, like discovery. Like, it's so cool, and just like seeing the suspects and how they even found the murder like at the end. And then the ending was really crazy as well, and I'm just interested to see like how we get to learn more about the initial murder, because there's 3 books, and then there's like one case in each, and then there's the overarching case, which is the first case. So yeah, there's just a lot of like fun murder mystery and stuff that goes on, and a bunch of the characters. I love this book because the characters were diverse, unique, funny, amazing, and I love seeing like even the relationships between the characters and just some of the, you know, backstabbing that went on. It was great. So just definitely read this book if you're into some spooky vibes for the month of October. Alright guys, the third recommendation that I have for you today is Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller, and I read this back in like spring, so like maybe like around March and April. Like, I read this a long time ago, and I'm so excited to share it with you because I honestly had such a fun time reading this book. It was an ultimate 5-star for me. Just a lot of things that surprised me in the most like goodest way possible. So this book is basically a Viking-inspired story set in this new world where there's a bunch of villages, and there's this one like oppressive god who goes around each year and collects materials from the village that kind of leaves them starving. So we follow this one girl named Rasmira, who in her village has to produce a certain quota for the god every single year, and so what ends up happening is they have to produce so much food that their village starves. So when Rasmira is 18, she's turning 18, and she has to get a task from her village. Like, she's training to be a warrior. At 18, she gets this task, and if she completes it, she gets to become a warrior, and if she doesn't complete it, she gets banished from the village and earns a matthieu, which is basically a task that she will ultimately die from, like jumping off a cliff or like holding your breath for the whole night, like stuff that'll basically kill her. And so the day that she does her warrior task, she actually gets sabotaged, which is a huge plot point that happens really early in the book that like really shocks you, and so just wait for it. And what ends up happening is she gets banished from the village, and she gets a matthieu, which is to kill the god that has been haunting the villages. And this is like the hardest task the village leaders have ever like given someone, and so like she has to basically go out into the woods. She has to also find some people that have also been banished and kind of team up with them and help each other to complete their matthieux. And there's just so much fun stuff, like, and especially because in the wild, this like world, like the wild is like dangerous. The wild has a bunch of creatures that are like aiming to kill them. There's a bunch of monsters, and just the wild itself is so interesting to explore. So I just really love this book. I think it was just everything to me, like just from the characters to the LGBTQ plus representation, and just how it was normalized in this book, which was a whole different topic, but I just loved like how it was just like they didn't make a big deal out of it. So like the relationships, the characters, the plot points, the plot twists, the discovery, the setting, all of it was so cool. And I just remember like the main relationship, the main character, Rasmira, was strong, intelligent, wise. I loved it, and the ending was so good. The beginning was so good. I just remember loving every single part of this book. So if you want like a kind of like a cozy village-inspired or like Viking-inspired story, I totally recommend Warrior of the Wild, especially during this fall time. Alrighty, the next book that we are going to get through is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and I have not talked about this a lot, surprisingly, because it was a fantastic book that I read in February. It's one of the 3 books that I read in February, which was my worst reading month of the year, considering now that I've already read 7 books or something this month. So yeah, anyways, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black is one of the most hyped like fantasy series out there. You know, it's just like a really cool epic fantasy basically, so almost has a lot of like fae elements too. So basically we are set with this girl named Jude, who when she was 7, her parents were killed, like her real parents were killed, and then her and her 2 sisters were basically kidnapped and transferred to this new like world with Fae. And what happens is like there's this whole political system in this world that like is like this Fae high court, and Jude as a human in this world, like the only human or ever, wants to, you know, be a representative of the court so that she can have her voice heard. And so this is her kind of story of her trying to get to that. And like I don't really know how to explain it that much, so I'll just kind of just read off the back a little bit. But it's like Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, but many of the Fae despise humans, which is another really key point. This is why the book is called The Cruel Prince, because Jude, being a human, is getting so much hate for being a human. Like all the other, you know, Fae are against her. Like I guess if you think about it, the Cruel Prince, like this one prince named Prince Carden, he's the youngest and wickedest son, and he is very cruel to Jade. He is constantly bullying her, threatening her, and all that stuff. And so Jude must defy Prince Carden and fight for her place in the court. I think there's this competition she's trying to do that will get her in there, and then when she ultimately finds like a lot of different ways to try to get there. And then there's this whole political aspect at the end. Like the second half of the book is just fantastic because it's like really political, and although I don't tend to like political stuff, like there's like fantasy and like magic and kind of like some espionage even in this book as well, like trying to like find out like what's happening, and then like trying to like, you know, make her mark on the court. I think this is just a fun book if you want to read something fun. I need to read the rest of the books because I'm so curious. The ending was so shocking, and I just remember being shocked a bunch in this book, and just like it was everything. So definitely make sure you go pick up this book because you will not regret it. All right, the next book that I have for you guys is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and this is probably like the one that I would really suggest to you guys. Like honestly, like pick it up. Probably like if you're like a little bit more mature, and like I know I do have some younger people, but like if you are kind of like 13, like at least 13, because like it does have a lot of like content that I feel like you wouldn't understand unless you were older. Like it's not like mature content or anything. It's just like a lot of like heavy rich content that's just like a lot of like literature is involved, and like a lot of like analysis, and like it was really fun. Basically this is like one of the longest audiobooks, the longest audiobook that I read, and it was just stunning, mind-blowing. I loved it so much, and just like anyone who mentions it in their videos or like their Instagram stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the best book ever, because I don't even know how to explain it. We start off with like we kind of alternate between this ancient magical book and then the story of Zachary Ezra Rollins. Basically we start to see like Zachary Ezra Rollins' story that was in the magical story like kind of play out. Like I don't know, it's so weird, but like Zachary Ezra Rollins sees his story in this book from when he was younger about these doors and these bees and these keys, and they all kind of like develop into this mystery like of magic that he has to solve. Like he has to seek out another door, because in that story it says like he ignored that first initial door, but he's going to come upon a second door or whatever. And so he just gets wrapped up in this mystery. He goes to London and he tries to go after this mystery involving the bees and the keys and this underground like labyrinth with like this magical, like this whole magical like city basically, with apprentices and like keepers and like guardians with keys and like keepers with their books, and then bees and like honey. There's just so much poetical stuff in here, and basically they go on this mystery, and then he does find this like magical world, but like the magical world is collapsing, and there's people after him, and there's a secret organization that's like against the Starless Sea, and like I don't know how to explain it, but it is just the most amazing book I've ever read. Like you guys have to read it. Like I don't even know, it's just like so cool seeing some mystery unvolve, and like the magic in this world is like incredible, and just like the characters are incredible. Like we had a lot of LGBTQ plus relationships and representation in there, and just like, oh, it's so poetic and so great. And just seeing the alternations between these like magical volumes and then the real story to connect everything, and then like just there's so, I don't know, y'all read this if you want, if you're interested. It's just so good. I don't know how to explain it other than it was just amazing. It's long, it's thick, it's like I'm gonna get a physical copy of it too, so I can just always read it again and again and again, because it's the most poetic, beautiful story, beautiful writing that I've ever read. So yeah, definitely go check it out. Like, check it out. All right, next up for you guys, I've got A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, and I did talk about this in my quarantine recommendations, but like it's been a heck of a long time since then, so I'm just going to go over this one. everyone. A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer is an amazing story, and the main reason why I love this is the dual perspectives, like the dual timelines that we get from the real world, Earth, and then Emberfall, which is the second world. For some reason in this video, I feel like I'm doing so great with synopsises and reviews. Like, I don't know, I just think fall energy is really like pushing me to create some better videos for you guys, so like, it's perfect. But basically, this story is about this girl named Harper, who I believe has cerebral palsy, and she is like almost an adult. I feel like she's like 16 or something. She basically gets kidnapped. She like witnesses this woman getting taken into this world, and then she's like, hey, stop. And then what ends up happening is the girl, or the guy that was taking the other girl, he took Harper to the other world so like that she didn't cause a commotion. And basically, she is taken into the world with this curse, where we all have the second character called Ren, who is the prince of this world. He has a curse on him that was from this witch. It's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, yeah. And so he got this curse from this witch that basically every single season, the season will like reset for him. Basically, like it's spring, and it resets every spring if he doesn't get that girl that he takes to the world every spring to fall in love with him. And so like he's gone through 200 like resettings basically with countless amount of girls that never fall in love with him. But now we've got Harper, who basically got taken through this world in act of like defiance, and then she has to kind of fall in love with the prince, but like she definitely doesn't fall in love with the prince, if that makes sense. But like they still have to kind of like get along or whatever, and then they also have to solve this political battle. And then also what was interesting about the story was the story like back in the Earth, because when Harper left this world, her brother was involved in like serious crime troubles, like he was stealing stuff, and like the police were like on him, or he was like involved with like a bunch of like gangs, I'm pretty sure, and like he was like getting like forced to be in them and being threatened by them because like they were really poor, because their dad was not in the story, I guess, or like I don't really remember what happened to their dad, but their mom was dying, so they didn't really have any income, so he was forced to like be involved in this crime stuff. And so basically Harper needs to get back, but she also needs to help Ren, like, but she doesn't want to help Ren, if that makes sense. But over time, like, her affection grows for Ren, and it's just like really fun story. Like, you will be like shocked by this book. I mean, it's not great from the start. Like, it's not. Like, I remember like being like, okay, you know, and I buddy read this with Lily, and I was like, okay, the start's not that great. But I was reading slow, and I was like, oh, I wasn't even reading to the chapters that like my buddy read was with, and so yeah, it was just kind of slow at the start. But when it started speeding up, I would even go past Lily with the buddy read. So like you can really just show like it just got better and better and better and better and better and even better, like just as it went on. Like I just loved it so much, and you guys should totally check it out if you want a really fiercely original and, you know, fiercely romantic and fiercely amazing book, or original Beauty and the Beast retelling. Like, this is the one for you. Alright, and the last, this is the last book. Okay, the last book that I'm going to recommend to you guys today is They Both Die at the End. This was probably the most recent book that I have on my recommendation list for you guys today, and it was an audiobook that I listened to, and it was fantastic. I mean, fantastic. The ending almost literally brought tears to my eyes, because it was just, I will say that this was like one of the most fantastic like LGBTQ plus romances that I've read. And it's not really even supposed to be romances. This book is a lot of like philosophy about like death and mortality, because in this book they both die at the end. Like from the title, it's pretty evident, it's clear, there is no like magical ending. The two boys die at the end. Like that's the whole point of the book, and it's like dealing with their mortality and their last day on the earth, because in this book the world has this thing called death cast, where they are able to know the person, like they're able to know when a person dies and like how they die and stuff. So the person will get a call like like when they're dying, they'll have 24 hours to live their life, basically their last day, and they, you know, just get to have a lot of like fun things happen to them and try to live out their last day to the best. So I think this is a really great thing about like death cast, is like they get to like know when they're dying, so that they can have one last day, like have one last romp and like make love or have friends, or, you know, all that fun stuff. So basically we are set with Rufus and Matteo, two boys. They both get death cast calls like pretty simultaneously, like within 30 minutes of each other, and basically they meet on the Last Friends app, because they both, you know, are looking for like some friends for their last day, you know, to hang out with each other. And they start hanging out with each other, they start to grow like a love connection, because I think one character was bisexual and then the other character was gay, and so they had a connection, and it took a while though, so just be wary of that. Like it's not fully about the romance and just like their last day on the earth. And then also we get perspectives of so many different characters, of other characters that get death cast calls on the day, and then characters that don't get death calls by the day. Like the most iconic line in the book was like, blah blah blah, was not called by death call, or was called by death call today. And so like we had perspectives that were getting killed and that were not getting killed, that made a really big plot point. Like some characters that did not get the call for death cast were the killers of the people that did get the death cast. Like, and you were able to make predictions about how those people that got like their calls, like how they impacted others in the world, and just how like everything kind of like, you know, impacted each other. I thought it was just such a clever book, and I just thought the writer Adam Silvera, this is probably his best work by far. Adam Silvera as an author is really good. I would totally recommend him, and he's probably up in the favorites for me because we love he includes a lot of LGBTQ plus characters in his books, and then also just his writing is really fantastic, and like his character is really fantastic. So yeah, that is the last book recommendation. Hope you guys like this. Let's get into an outro. All right guys, that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. What is it doing? That's so cool. I'm not moving my camera at all, but it was moving. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun just going over some of my book recommendations and remembering some of these amazing books. Like I have not been thinking about them for a while, so just to like rethink about them and just to think about some awesome books is great, and I totally recommend you guys read them. Like please read them and tell me what you guys think. Like I know some of you guys have bought books because of me, which like first of all, that's a huge honor, and second of all, I just love hearing your guys' thoughts. So if you guys enjoyed it and want to see more videos like this, make sure to leave a like because I've got a lot more book recommendations that I could give. Like I only had to pick 7. I've read probably 75, maybe even upwards of 75 books this year, so I definitely have even more recommendations. So definitely let me know if you want to see more in the comments, and like also, did you read any of these books in the comments, or did you want to read any of these books? Like tell me what your thoughts on the video are. I love your comments so much. They really mean the world to me. Also make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We've actually been getting a lot more subscribers recently. We're at 1,320, which is like mind-blowing, so thank you guys so much for that, and hit the notification bell. A lot of you guys have not hit the notification bell, like a really low percentage of you guys have, so please do that for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave the last video up there, get me monetized so I can start doing some better content as well. Not better content, but like I just have some fun stuff planned. So yeah, thank you so much, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, love you.